Hello and welcome back to this channel. So today's tutorial is going to be about how to create your own brush in Adobe Fresco. Before you get excited about it, I just want to tell that this comes with a lot of limitations and it is not exactly as creating a new brush in Photoshop or in Procreate, but it does help you improve your workflow, especially when you have to cover a large area of a painting or something like that with the same pattern all throughout. This becomes really helpful. So first we'll try and create a stamp brush, and then we'll try to make it into a normal brush, like a free-flowing brush. So let's just get started. So you can start with any document size that you want. It really does not matter. So I'm just using a postcard document size here. So for creating the brush, first we have to start with the base pattern. And for that, you can actually use any brush that you want. You can even use oil brushes or something like that. But for this tutorial purposes, I'm going to start off with a vector brush because that is going to be super simple to use. And then one thing you should know is if you choose black as the color for your base pattern or the base brush pattern, then you will not be able to change the color later on. Let me just give you a quick demo of what we're going to be creating today. So we'll be creating a brush, not exactly this brush. So it's going to look something like this. And let me just change the color to that. And because I created this as a blue brush, I can also make this into a different kind of brush like this. And you'll also be able to create a stamp brush. That is, you just stamp it in. You can increase the size and you can also go ahead and change the colors and stuff like that. So let's just get started then. So I'll go back to my original postcard that I created. And now we'll draw the base pattern. So I'm going to my vector brush. I'll change the color. You can choose any color that you want. Doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and choose something purplish blue, just because it's very evident on the screen. The brush I've chosen is basic round, and I think I've kept the size at 12.5. It really does not matter because it's vector. You can increase and decrease the size as much as you want. So let's start off by making a stalk like this, and then we're gonna draw, okay, let's start from the bottom, and then we'll draw leaves, and here as well, here as well. Okay, I think that looks fine. Maybe you can extend this a little bit. Remember this point has to join over here, so you have to keep that in mind. Okay, once you have this, we're going to use the multicolor option here. So I will have a separate tutorial on how to use the multicolor option, but for this tutorial, let's stick to what we're doing. So I'm just going to click on the eyedropper tool, and then in here there are two options. There's a normal color, and the one is the multiple colors or multicolor. So you can see the area that it's swatching right now. So if your icon is bigger than this circle, you can just pinch and, zoom out so that this fits nicely inside the circle. So I'm just going to move a little bit. You can also move the circle, by the way. That looks fine, and you can see the preview here. So once you have this ready, you can just click on this icon right here. Go to your color swatches. If you're already in this one, click on recents and click on plus. And then it will add it to your most recent swatches. Now it's time to test the brush actually. So next, go to your pixel brush, then go to your basic and go to hard round. Now if you click, you can see that you have created a stamp brush. There are some settings that you can change. So let's go ahead and do that. So if you go here to the brush settings, there are a few things that you need to know here. First of all, the hardness. It just means that the edges are going to be, let me just do that, are going to be very blurred out. So I usually keep it at the maximum because I want like proper edges. Now spacing will come to that when you're trying to create a proper brush. And then blend mode is going to be normal. In shape dynamics, you can make size jitter. That is, it'll give sometimes bigger and sometimes smaller brush strokes. So that's one more thing that you can control. Another one is angle jitter. So it can put it in different angles. And there's also many options to control like how you want to do this. But let's not do that right now. Now just click and you can check your brush. And you have created a stamp brush. And when do you think it's going to be helpful? So let me just go and show a bit of an example of the stamp brush. So if I have some illustration like this and I want a pattern on this shirt, so I'm just going to go to my selection tool here and probably make a selection. I mean, you don't really need it, but just so that. And now you can go to your brush setting and make sure you select your stamp brush, and you can reduce the size because I think it's too big. And then you can try to draw like this. And it doesn't go outside this line because you're using the selection tool. And please note, I'm using a different layer than the actual illustration because I want to move it down later. And then I just click on deselect. And then you can see that the t-shirt has that pattern. So it is one of the ways that you can use a stamp brush in an illustration where you have to cover a huge area with some particular design. Okay, so let's go ahead and now check out how to make this into a continuous brush. So to make it into a continuous brush, I'm just going to go into brush settings, and in here I'll go to shape dynamics. So one thing I want to do is control, make it as direction, and this is pretty important. And then it gives something like this, which is not a good thing. We don't want our shape to be like this. The main reason is our shape is in a direction and it's taking it in that direction. I haven't figured out why it does that yet. So if you guys know why it does that, let me know, because some of the brushes work fine. Some of the brushes I have to actually move it around to make sure that it is working fine. So let's go ahead to our actual design now and click on your transform tool, and I'm going to go ahead and flip it by 45 degrees. No, actually 90 degrees like this, and click on done. Let me uncheck this, go back here, and we're going to go ahead and take a sample of this now. That looks good. Go ahead and add it. Should be fine. And let's go ahead to our brush tool now and make sure it's on that brush, and it'll automatically take in the settings from the previous brush. Oops, let me draw a new layer, and there you go. So this is basically how the brush should look like. But as you can see, the spacing is a bit messed up. You see there are double of them. So what I'm going to do is go into settings again. Oops. I don't know why I keep clicking that. Click on go to settings again, and let's go to spacing. And let's try to move this up a little bit so that there's a nice gap between each of these. And let's try it out. That looks good. Increase the size. Let me uncheck this and pick a new one. Let's decrease the size a bit. And that's your new brush already. Okay, now if you want to know how to change the color, here comes the next trick. So click on this option here, and if you click on the HSP side sliders, you can see the hue, saturation, and brightness. So you can move this thing around to actually create a different brush color. And let's go ahead and make this yellow. And you can do that as well. And if you go back here, I'm just going to uncheck this, and let's uncheck this as well. In here, I'm going to click on new layer and click on your selection tool. Just so you know, the artwork is actually in vector, and that's why it does not let me draw on the same layer as the artwork. So I have to choose a different layer if I'm using this brush. So now I have my yellow brush, and I'm going, go back to your brush. And I'm going to go ahead and make some lines like this. And let me just go ahead and change it a little bit. Blue is a very nice color with yellow. So, and then you can actually make something like that. Okay, then put it down. And there you go, deselect. And then you have a pattern on your t-shirt. So there are many ways you can create so many different things. Let me just show you some sample brushes. So one of the brushes that I created was this one. And as you can see, there's a lot of gap. So we're going to fix that because it is set to the previous brush setting. And if you do that, you can see that there are no more gaps anymore. So this is basically how you can create your own brush or your own stamp brush as well in Adobe Fresco. But one thing I need to tell you that these brushes, whatever you create over here, are not available on the different artboard. So it's basically to improve your workflow when you're already illustrating something. I don't know if there's an option to actually save these. I haven't figured it out. If you have, please let me know and in the comment section below, and I would be really thankful to you. And it's a new tool and I'm learning as well, and it'll be nice to share these tips and tricks with each other. So one thing you should know is that even though you created the base pattern as a vector, the final element is your pixel brush, because if you go to vector brush, you will not have that option to select these brushes at all. Just uncheck that at all. So it's only available as a pixel brush. You do have the option as a watercolor brush. For example, let me go here, take watercolor, and you can see that it's available, but it's so tiny. Like, let me just go ahead and see this. You can increase the spacing like this, and you can see it, but you know, it's really, I don't know, I don't think I would use it. So if you increase the size of this, and you can also increase the flow here. Oh, and by the way, you can also increase the water flow, which is like really, really important. There's too much water, there's way too little water. So here, and if I go ahead and draw this, so it kind of merges into this and spreads and stuff like that. I'm sorry, I'm really fascinated with these watercolor brushes, and I kind of like working with them all the time, and I try to make use of it. So if I start playing with it, I just forget about the rest of the world, and like I'm doing right now. So I'll stop at that. So that brings us to the end of this tutorial, and I hope you liked it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up or click on that like button. And also don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And when you do that, click on the notification bell to get notified every time I post a new video. I hope you create some beautiful brushes, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any comments, tips, or anything for me, let me know in the comment section below. And I guess I'll see you in the next video then. Bye-bye.